Hey, everybody, this is Emar Sopchi. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Inquirer Show. We're recording this on July 28th, 2020 here in Metro Atlanta. Hope all is well with you in the world. On today's broadcast, we're going to break down the MLS's back tournament, particularly locally here, with Atlanta United making a change in the manager position. We'll break that down. We'll go into the Major League opening weekend and things that have taken place in the really first week of action in Major League Baseball and the Beanball portion of our show. We'll next delve into Florida with the backdoor cut as the WNBA saw their season begin and the NBA continued preparations for the start of or the resumption of their campaign. And finally, in the Gridiron Blitz, there was a big trade in the NFL yesterday, or yeah, I'm gonna say yesterday, or over the weekend, depends how you look at it, and we'll break that down as well in the Gridiron Blitz. But as always, want to follow everything that we're doing, head to the mothership, thesportsinquirer.net, premier site for news and notes in the world of sports. You can also head to our Twitter and Instagram page under Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. You can search those. Make sure you follow us and any updates that we have from our show, or as like one you listen to right now, or as far as any content we put up. We do an update constantly, so make sure you do that. Go to our Facebook pages, The Sports Inquirer and Sports Inquirer. We have two separate pages. Either one, you will get all of our stuff. And then finally, subscribe to us on YouTube and SoundCloud under The Sports Inquirer. You do a search there, and you can subscribe to our pages on there. And you get archives of our previous shows as well as the content that we're going to put in the future. And that's a great way to follow all the activities that we have going on. Things are going well here. It seems like it's a repetitive or a repeat note or repeat record, but we're just chugging along. More sports to talk, actual live sports to talk about, which is a good thing. We need some caution, and we'll get into a very interesting situation in Major League Baseball when we get to that portion of the show. As far as when sports do return to the field, how does that how do you combat or how do you work around the COVID or coronavirus? It's not going anywhere, and I think that this isn't political. This is just science. I think that people talk about the cure or the vaccine and things like that. I mean, that'd be great. We all would want that, especially for those who are in a significant health risk. But it's not going to happen by the time you listen to this show, and probably not by the end of this calendar year, or it may take beyond into 2021. And the point of saying that is we're going to have failed tests, and how do you handle that, especially when you have teams involved in sports. And there are some sports that are one-on-one that we've seen kind of work around it a little bit easier, as far as tennis and golf. And they've had positive tests as well. Those sports have not been immune to, no pun intended, to the virus. But those sports have been able to work around things a little bit easier because there are more abilities to have social distancing. The sports that we have coming up now, where you have direct contact one-on-one with your competitor, and it's kind of it staggers. We've seen the soccer, and we've seen the English Premier League and Bundesliga, and Serie A in Italy, and all the European leagues. They've concluded their seasons and are concluding their seasons, and we've seen how that's gone. It's relatively speaking been pretty okay. And then MLS is back, struggles with the Dallas and Nashville franchises having to pull out of the tournaments because of a large amount of positive tests on their rosters. But since they've been in Orlando, I think outside of I think a DC United player may have had the virus. I've not heard of any positive tests since they've been in the bubble. And NBA has done a very good job with that, and WNBA also, as far as not having many positive tests in that regard. And what I'm saying is ramping up, because I'm getting to the big one at the end. And those sports, obviously, interactions, contact, people following each other, and it's been relatively okay. And then football, and that's when we get to the Gridiron Blitz. We'll conclude the show on that. But football training camps are supposed to be opening normally around this time of year, and they're going through a unique process. There's a lot of testing, and they're testing to go into the quarantine before they even put on pads and even do physicals. And it's just a different world out there, and we're dealing with it. We're working with it, but as I said, we've had some live sports to talk about, which has been a good thing. I'll go into the original free kick and discuss Atlanta United. Since we recorded our last show, Atlanta United and former manager Frank DeBoer parted ways, and it was a move that we discussed possibly happening when we did our recap of their 1-0 loss to, well, really just the MLS's back tournament when they lost to the Red Bulls, 1-0 Cincinnati, and then 1-0 as well to Columbus. They went scoreless in those 3 matches. First time they've ever gone scoreless in 3 consecutive matches. History of the franchise. First 3-match losing streak. All the bad things. You saw a lot of red cards and aggressive play they're not very disciplined, is what I'm trying to say. And you look at this organization. The word spoiled has been thrown about. I think that when the franchise started, they had a very good first year, maybe one of the best expansion years you could possibly have. Now, the Chicago Fire won an MLS Cup in their first year of existence, so I won't say it was the best year ever. But when you have when you have the excitement, and we were down here for it, and you have attacking signed players like Joseph Martinez, Tata Martino, manager Tata Martino, and attack players like Joseph Martinez, Miguel Almiron, Tito Villalba, the guys who are very aggressive, very front forward, pushing, scoring a lot of goals, and the fans like that. It's very, very exciting style of play. And then you culminate it with the second year of the franchise. You win the MLS Cup, and once again you continue that aggressive style and selling out a legit 70,000 people in your stadium to watch the contest. You build a level of expectation that's not normal for a expansion franchise. And the expectation, but to be fair, you looked at the budget, you looked at the moves that Atlanta made, and you're like, okay, and they drafted well, guys like Julian Gressel, who also were some supplementary parts. Brad Guzan, a veteran goalkeeper, U.S. national team member, and defensively, Gonzalez Perez. And you bring in all of these guys, and you look at the team, and like the spine is good. They have just a really good balance. And Tata Martino, international experience, coaching around the world, literally. You bring that all together, and it's like, this is a winning franchise. And after that MLS Cup championship in 2018, the realities of football happened for them. Tata Martino, he moved on to the Mexican national team. I think he liked the United States, like Atlanta United, but when a franchise organization like the Mexican Football Federation offers you a major deal and increases your salary and the prestige, Spanish speaking as well, we take for granted that aspect of it. Most of us English speaking people, natives of the United States, we don't acknowledge enough the fact that some of these players and coaches and managers are not from the United States and have to adjust to a new language and everything like that. It's a lot to deal with. So just imagine yourself if you were, for professional reasons, you had to move to France or move to Spain or Italy, like places that you're not familiar with, or anywhere in South America that English is not the native or the main language. It'd be an adjustment for you, and as much as you like those locations, you would want to possibly come back to the United States. And Martino I think it was the same deal with him. And Miguel Almiron, he received a very nice deal with Newcastle and the English Premier League, and he moved on. But you still had some holdovers from that championship year. But you bring in Frank DeBoer, who on paper seemed like an interesting hire. Had some struggle, had success in Ajax as a manager, and he's a Dutch legend. But no disrespect to the Dutch league, and Ajax is the premier franchise in that league. It's very tough. Now I know they have PSV and some other solid teams. It's not a easy league, but you're playing with a pretty solid deck or a solid hand when you are with a manager of Ajax. And we've seen his tenures not end well in different organizations, including in the English Premier League. So you bring him over to the United States, and while you had a very aggressive style under Martino, De Boer wanted to be more pragmatic, a little more structured with his formations and with his setup. And where guys we would see, I remember when I would talk to Leandro Gonzalez Perez, and as a defender, he'd go box to box. You'd see him go for headers and attempt shots on goal, and I would ask him if that was part of the game plan, and he would laugh and say Tata Martino would encourage that. He liked guys going forward and taking those chances. Now he had to backtrack and do his defensive responsibilities, but you would see guys make more moves, be more aggressive. You would see the emergence of a Julian Gressel becoming a premier two-way midfielder. And you see Almiron, who was such a underrated defensive player because he would backtrack and get a lot of steals, but him being a very good pilot for the offense under Martino, and under Martino with De Boer, just the structure. And to be fair, you'd see some transitions of what the current roster was. Maybe he thought that would be a very good approach. But you look into year 3 of last season, they have Ezekiel Barco come in and Pity Martinez. Those players who you would think would thrive in a more offensive setup, but it wasn't working out. And you look at the team, but it didn't work out, but they still won 2 championships. They won the Campeones Cup with the win over the League MX champion of that previous season, Club America. That was a significant moment for the franchise. And they won the U.S. Open Cup, which is, and that's where what people saying they didn't win any trophies under Frank de Boer or championships. That's not true. It wasn't the MLS Cup. And when the United States, we look at the MLS Cup as the main cup, and I can understand that because that's the championship of the Premier League in the country. In North America, if you want to include Canada. But the reality is he still won at U.S. Open Cup is a very respected championship as well, and he was able to navigate the team to a championship there. Now you go to 2020, and they lost in the playoffs, the MLS playoffs last season. So you go from the championship year 2018 to losing in the playoffs in 2019. It looks like it's a disappointment. The team is regressing. Not necessarily, but you get the feeling that's what people thought. Now you head into this year. You look at the roster going into the season. I'm not even going. I'll get to Joseph Martinez's injury and the impact that had on the team in a moment. You looked at the players that they were starting to lose and looking at the replacements. You lose Gonzalez Perez, who was the defensive captain of the team. I know that Escobar's a solid player, and Miles Robinson, I think, can be a starter on the U.S. national team. It could be a best 11 contender in Major League Soccer in his career, but he's not there yet consistently. And that's where you needed a Gonzalez Perez. He moved on. Julian Gressel. And the Gressel situation, I think just because the team, there was labor negotiations between the MLSPA and the league itself. The timing of that was really bad. Gressel wanted to raise and get the money that he was receiving at DC United right now, but Atlanta could not offer that under the labor negotiation or labor rules at the time. So I think if there was a normal calendar, off-season calendar, Gressel may have gotten that raise and stuck around here. And I think that's a player that De Boer likes, and we all liked, or supporters of the team liked, as far as that goes. But he moved on to DC United, and That's a tough move. Tito Villalba, I know he struggled to stay on the field at times with injuries, but he was a major contributor to the team. Gave a lot of speed, a lot of depth heading into the front line. He departed for different pastures. So Darlington Nagbe, who did not have a very good start under DeBoer this offseason of 2018 or 2019, excuse me, DeBoer's first year. There are tensions as far as Nagbe not reporting to camp on time or not practicing normally, but still, Nagbe was a really good midfielder, especially in the transition game, and we saw that evident in the Atlanta Columbus game. I think he attempted 20 plus passes, all successfully in the first half. He showed his subtle dominance in that performance right there. So you add all of those things together, including the injury to Josef Martinez, who suffered the knee injury that probably has him out for the entire season, if not a good amount of it, in the very first match of the season against Nashville. Martinez has scored, and I think I can still say it because they didn't score in Orlando, I think it's 35 to 37% of the team's goals that they've ever had. That's a staggering amount of percentage for one individual player. Not even guys like Ronaldo and Messi and all your top flight Sane and Salah in Liverpool. You just go down the list of all your premier. Even Lewandowski at Bayern Munich. I don't even know if his amount or percentage is that high, and that just shows that Josef Martinez, as the one front line forward scoring so many goals, you knew that the drop off would be significant with his injury, and Adam Jean just does not bring that level or even a threat of that level. The first half of the match against Columbus, I don't think his name was even mentioned, or he didn't touch the ball maybe one time, and you cannot have your forward in any system not touch the ball at all through an entire half, especially in a desperation game that was the Columbus contest. So you add all of this together, it's not good. And as far as the notes go, and guys like Philippe at a good buddy of ours at The Athletic, and Doug at the AJC, Orlando Constitution, been reporting, and those guys, I follow stuff and I speak to the coaches and attend practices, but those guys are really at the front line of it. They do a great job. The stories as far as the players and walking off of practice or not having a direction or knowing the feel of things, I can kind of see that. And it's a unique time right now because we aren't able to go to practices. You aren't able to see scrimmages or anything like that as media members because everything is closed off. We get a Skype call, or I say Skype, I'm aging myself. I guess Zoom, well, that's still Skype, or a Zoom call with coaches and players at the end of their practices and everything. But that's not, they can say whatever they want as far as things are great, things are good. And they're professionals. They're not going to say everything that's wrong. But it's not the same as us being able to go to practice and kind of see the vibe of the team and everything like that. I think there was just a misconnect with DeBoer and the players. And there's accountability on both sides. I think DeBoer was not flexible enough with his schemes and with working with the talent that he has. I think he tried to make the team in a pragmatic way when that's just not the identity of the team. That hurts, but also the players as well. I think there's been regression of every single player on the team from last season. There has not been one player that you could say, and I'm not even including George Bello didn't really play last year, and he's looked spry and had some okay moments this season. He had a good shot at one off the post in the New York Red Bulls season opener, or the opener of the MLS is Back tournament. But what player can you say, and it includes the veterans from Guzan to Robinson, the Pity Martinez, Ezequiel Barco. Those players have either stayed stagnant or have regressed from what we've seen from them. And that's just the reality of it. Guys like Emerson Hyman, who have been put into the lineup, have been average at best, have not been an upgrade or even at the complimentary level of guys that preceded them that saw playing time, it's just not working out. And you see the so many crosses and just lack of offensive opportunities they saw throughout the MLS's back tournament. Where does the team go from here? They promoted Stephen Glass. We know Glassy well. If you follow our site, he's talked to us exclusively and quite a bit with his time in Atlanta United too. And he's a very good coach. He's good with development. And you've seen some of the players that have been under him that have passed through his time with Atlanta United, from Robinson to Bello, that have shown improvements from the young age to being first teamers. So that's good. We don't know about his experience working with a first team. We have not spoken with him yet. His availability has not been given. But as far as what the team is trying to do, I think that, and we don't even know when the next match is. That's the odd part about this as well. And then we'll move on to the rest of the MLS's back tournament. They've played those 3 matches and they're done. And the MLS's back tournament concludes, because now they're in the knockout stage of it. We'll pull it up right now. August 11th is the finals of the MLS's back tournament. At the earliest, we're not going to see regular season MLS matches till the 18th, maybe even the 25th. And that's a very long time for a team that just released its manager to not be on the pitch. We don't know if they're going to practice now. I'm sure they're at the facility. Some guys are recovering or doing and still doing some drills and everything like that. But they're still under the same rules and regulations as far as how to handle practices. Under the virus. So I'm saying that with the release of DeBoer, I won't say it's a lost season, but you have to. Even with all I've talked bad about the players and their regressions overall, there's still enough talent to be a playoff team, you would think. Where do they go from there? I don't know. You got to look at the Eastern Conference. I highly doubt that they are better than Philadelphia, the NYCFC, Columbus, who has improved. Even Orlando has shown some life as a franchise. When you cannot defeat Cincinnati, who were the worst team in Major League Soccer last season, and not look inspired at all in that contest. And I know Cincinnati has a new manager and they're trying to do some things. That's not a very good sign for Atlanta United. And you got to look at the front office as well. You have to look at Carlos Bocanegra, the technical director, and Darren Eales, the president of the team, and where their moves have been. I said the questionable. I mean, they brought in guys like Gmaza and brought in, other players that may not be at the caliber of their roster of players that they've had before. Jake Moraney, who's come over from Europe. Are those guys at the same or even better level than their predecessors? Probably not. So you have to look at the front office as well. I personally would have. And I'm not in the locker room, and I'm not there every day. None of us are. Even the solid journalists that I mentioned earlier, we're not there in the locker room every day to make decisions of the direction or what's the tone of the team and everything like that. We hear stuff, and you can kind of tell body language-wise. But when you make a move like this, you're pretty much eliminating all postseason aspirations as far as going to a higher level. And that's really all there's going to be this year. Champions League is not taking place for the CONCACAF. The U.S. Open Cup, I believe, is not going to take place at all. So it's all MLS play, and that's not going to go well for the team. But as I said, hopefully by the next time we do a show, we'll be able to speak with Coach Glass and find out everything from there. Rest of MLS's back tournament, we've discussed the teams, and we're now in the knockout stages, and I like what I've seen from several franchises. We've talked about Orlando, a team that's really struggled to find its footing the past few years. They beat Montreal 1-0 on July 25th. Their franchise, they faced LAFC, who dominated Seattle last night, 4-1 victory for LAFC. I've been saying for and they won the Supporters Shield last year, best record in the regular season. No Carlos Vela, but still finding a way to roll along. I think you're starting to see teams. I think Los Angeles, LAFC, and respect to San Jose as well. 5-2 win over Real Salt Lake. Really fun game. They're a franchise that in San Jose, we look at the modern teams that have kind of come into the league over the past 4 or 5 years, such as Atlanta and LAFC, teams that have had strong beginnings to their campaigns in Major League Soccer. But there are some old dogs like the Earthquakes who have been playing since the 70s and the 80s and have 2 MLS Cups in their own right. They're kind of a forgotten franchise. We don't think of them. We know about Chris Wando. Wando scored another goal off the bench. 3 straight matches scoring a goal off the bench for San Jose, the greatest goal scorer in history of Major League Soccer. That's not hyperbole. He has the most in history of the league. We forget about San Jose. I said they're like kind of a forgotten franchise, but they are looking really well. I don't know if this wide open style is going to continue for them throughout the rest of the season, especially if they face a team like LAFC that likes to play open as well, maybe a little bit better at doing it. But for San Jose to be in the quarters and facing either Columbus or Minnesota, that's a pretty solid run for San Jose. I said Columbus. I think they've been the most balanced team so far in the tournament. We've seen up front with Zardes. He's been able to get a goal and be a straight up front. Nagbe in the midfield is very significant as well. They just have, I think, the deepest or the most balanced team that I've seen overall. They face Minnesota today. NYCFC, good win for them against Toronto. We were excited about Toronto because of Aki, his 5 goals. He was unable to start the match due to a hamstring injury. Josie Altidore not able to go as well. When your 2 top frontline scorers aren't able to play, that's tough. And Toronto just looked very lackluster, very slow start against New York City FC. And the NYCFC were able to roll with 3-1 victory. They faced Portland, the winner of Portland and Cincinnati. That's a FC Cincinnati. Listen, they've had 3 managers, I think, in 2 years. I want to say, yeah, at least 3 or 4 managers in their tenure in Major League Soccer. We talked about Atlanta and their coaching change and struggles with that. Imagine doubling that or tripling that. But for them to get even to the round of 16 is a major achievement. I don't like their chances necessarily against Portland. But Cincinnati, we know what they're going to see from them. They've decided to be very structurally sound. They're going to play 8 behind, maybe even 9. And they're going to make you beat a really thick defensive line and try to counter, get lucky with the goal, maybe even off a free kick or something like that. It's not the most pleasing or aesthetically viewing style, but it works. It's worked for them. I don't know if it's going to last an entire season, but as I said, from where the depths that they were at, it's a very good situation for them. And then Philadelphia is going to face Sporting KC in the quarterfinals. I remember Philadelphia, we covered the MLS when Atlanta hosted the MLS All-Star game back in 2018. We covered the Futures game. I think Futures game I think is baseball. But in essence what they do is they have like the All-Star game for the young talent and for the second tier or in that level. And Philadelphia had the most players at that event. I think they had about 5 or 6 there at the tournament or at the event. And they had so much young talent, and you knew if they could develop and groom themselves, that they'd be a threat in Major League Soccer. And sure enough, we've seen them. They were a postseason squad last year in 2019. And now this year, they're off to a very solid start. And they faced Sporting KC in the other quarterfinal. Sporting KC was able to get past Vancouver in penalty kicks 3-1 after a scoreless beginning of the game or scoreless regulation portion of the contest. That's what we have so far in MLS's back tournament. It's been very good watching football. I can't do the 11 o'clock games. And I understand why they're doing it for 2 reasons. One, it's Orlando. It is humid out there. It's hot. It's brutal. So they want to play night games as late as possible. So that's why you see kickoffs at 8:30 or 8 o'clock. And that's late enough in the East Coast. But then they have a lot of teams in the West Coast playing these later games, so that's a good thing. So at least you get some like the San Jose, Salt Lake, no, actually like Seattle, LAFC last night on the 27th started off at 11. Well, that's 8 o'clock in the West Coast, so those fans are up and our supporters they're up and ready to go. So that's not the worst thing in the world. But for East Coast supporters like me, I fell asleep. I watched the first 20 minutes or so, and after that it was bedtime. So I think the tournament's gone really well. It's gotten a lot more attention than it ever would if this was just a regular season, normally going through the motions, because of the lack of live sports. They have been showing. This is probably the most MLS soccer we've ever seen. We'll see another sport that's kind of benefited from the lack of live activity with their sports and being able to be on ESPN and FS1 so much, and Fox for that matter. So those are my thoughts on Major League Soccer and everything going on there with MLS is Back tournament. We move on to Beanball and to start our Major League Baseball season. We'll have to start with the Florida Marlins and their 14 positive tests. They played in Philadelphia this past weekend to start the season, and they've had up to 14 positive tests between players and coaching staffs. As we record this show, I believe they are still in Florida or still in Philadelphia, at this moment. They're supposed to fly down to Miami and Florida and be able to play their home opener, but that has not taken place. And it's supposed to be against the Baltimore Orioles. Those games have not taken place. I don't know if they'll be made up. We knew that positive tests were going to happen, but the problem is the tentacles of this is that we look at the Marlins. They had their scrimmages earlier last week in Atlanta, and that's against the Atlanta Braves. So those infected players and coaches may have had interaction with Atlanta Braves. Where were the Atlanta Braves this past week? Well, they were in New York to play the Mets, and now they're in Tampa to play the Rays. So you got to look at those squads. They played Philadelphia, obviously the Marlins, where those players are managed. Were they infected by the virus? The Yankees were supposed to play in Philadelphia yesterday. They did not make the trip from New York to Philly because they would have to use the same facilities that the Marlins were using. And yes, they did chemical cleans and all of that stuff. So that's at least 4 to 5 teams I can think of. And yes, so you have the Braves, the Mets, the Marlins, the Phillies. Those teams are on high notice because they've had interaction with the Marlins during this time. It's the reality of the sport. I don't think you can, and I think it's wise. When I say wise, but it's practical for the league not to suspend everything. I don't know what the Marlins schedule is going to look like. And I know you want to joke and say they're not a good team, so it doesn't matter, but they're still professionals. They need to get their 60 games in. But this is the way things are going to be. And I don't have an answer for it. And the league, I think, is the best that they can do at this time. I don't think it makes sense to just be mad and say cancel the entire season. No, these guys they're going through the protocols and everything like that, and that's how you have to roll with it. As far as other thoughts on the opening weekend, it was just good seeing baseball. I don't care if you are a fan of the Mets or supporter of Mets like I like to be, and seeing them blow saves and blow games, which is typical of the Mets bullpen, just not very good. Diaz has been a complete mess. After that, being the trade from Seattle with Cano is not looking very good right now. Cano is batting 7th in the lineup, and they're trying to do positive spins about it, but you did not bring Cano in and spend that amount of money to be a 7-hitter and Diaz to be like that. Now, Familia's actually looked okay, so maybe Diaz could be the setup man for Familia, and Betances is a solid reliever as well. They got to figure out how to close games. But that being said, it was still very good to see the players go and everything like that. I think the empty stadiums is not really a big issue. I know they have the crowd noise playing and the organ and the walk-up music. So when you're watching the games, you don't notice it being like deadly silent. But even watching the stands, I don't like the cutouts in the game. And I know it's marketing; it's a money maker. I'm a capitalist like everyone else. It's a business, so I'm sure they're making some good money, whether for the team or maybe a charity spend on it. I get that, but seeing the cutouts of the different people in the stands, that's awkward. I don't like that look at all. But you're also seeing as well, and this was my concern. We've already seen the pitching. We've seen Corey Kluber. He's dealing with the arm injury. Justin Verlander. He's dealing with the injury. And this is where reporting also gets kind of leaky as well in these times. I know that the Houston Chronicle has maybe they talked to a trainer or to another player or a coach, but it's a bad look when Verlander, who is dealing with an arm injury, he leaves a game and it's reported he's out for the season. And then Verlander himself, literally like within 2 hours, goes to his social media and says the reports are inaccurate. I'm not out for the season. Now he's dealing with the form. Now he still might be injured for the year, but to just have the reporters say he's out for the year, we're rushing to make news and report news as journalists, and that's not good at all. And Verlander, and maybe the Chronicle will ultimately be vindicated, and Verlander is out for the season with his arm injury. They're going to rest him. That's what the word is. That's what Dusty Baker said, their manager. But to just rush to reports like that, it's a very bad look. But heading back to our main point, we've seen Kluber deal with his arm injury issues. Verlander, he's dealing with stuff. Clayton Kershaw, he didn't make his opening day start with a back injury. Now he's been dealing with back issues before. We're starting to see Steven Strasburg. He did not make his first start of the year. I guess he's dealing with a blister or something with his hand. And there's probably one or two others that I'm not thinking of right now. But those are the major hitters or major people. Those are MVPs, Cy Young winners, future Hall of Famers that didn't even either make it to their first start or struggled in their first start. And Shohei Ohtani as well. He looked rough in his first game. Didn't even record an out pitching for the Angels. I think the pitchers, everyone's talking who's further ahead, the pitchers or the hitters. I still say it's the hitters. I know it's not live pitching and everything like that, but they can still go in a cage and hit the ball or hit it off a tee and figure it out. Now, the Braves had 19 players strike out in their game last night against the Rays. We'll get to the Braves in a moment. So maybe say, oh, the pitchers are ahead. But the problem with the pitchers is that they ramped themselves up in spring training back in March and were ready to roll into a regular season. Then the season got suspended. I know they threw probably in their off time and everything like that, but it's not the same. Now you have them come back in early July to start training camp or summer camp, and they only had about maybe 2 weeks of summer camp and maybe threw some in an exhibition game, and now you want them to throw under live conditions. That's not good. That's not good at all. And not everyone's a freak like a Max Scherzer or some others that could throw complete games and everything like that. I think that's where, and I think arms are going to be a major issue for baseball teams this year and how you manage it. And that's my concern. And I think by the time they ramp into their bodies and get it right, the season's going to be over. Now, the teams that make the postseason, if their guys can make it through the regular season, they'll be fresh and I think pretty well conditioned to be in the postseason, as opposed to playing all throughout the summer and then having to go into the fall. Instead of having 25 starts or 25 to 30, they only have about 8 or 9. So their arms, I think, will be fresher, but they just got to make it through the first start or two, make it through healthy before they get to that fresh period of the postseason. I mentioned the Braves as they've been very interesting. They dominate the Mets on Sunday night, score a bunch of runs, and then get hammered by the Rays. But the biggest thing with the Braves is Mike Foltynewicz, designated for assignment last night. You look at him, a guy all-star in 2018, started multiple postseason games last year, but similar to, as I mentioned with some of the pitchers back in the spring training, you figured, okay, he's gonna be their number 3 starter, maybe 4 or 5 if Cole Hamels and Felix Hernandez were able to work things out. But Cole Hamels is injured, long-term injury. Felix Hernandez, he opted out because of COVID concerns, which is what it is. But Foltynewicz, he had his preseason, or he had his summer session start against the Marlins. Didn't look very good at all. Talked about the radar gun being off. He was throwing in the low 90s when typically he is in the mid to high 90s. So the fastball velocity was off. He talked about the radar gun maybe not being accurate and all this other stuff. But even from Brian Snitker, the manager, you heard from him just after that Marlins start saying, we don't know. Hopefully he can work it out. And he had a very bad performance against the Tampa team last night. And the problem now is that normally, and last season he had some hiccups, went down to Gwinnett, the AAA team, able to work out some things, and came back to the big team and pitched well. And I said, started some postseason contest. There's not that option anymore because there's no minor league baseball this year. I know they have like a satellite camp in Gwinnett where they have players there that are on reserve that could be called up at some point, but they're not playing real live games. And so you can't send them down there to get some help or to get some starts in. What are you going to do? They had to designate him from assignment. Now, he may clear waivers and maybe go to that Gwinnett satellite team. And I think a team will take a chance with him. I was talking to somebody yesterday online, and they're saying hopefully it works out for Folty. I think what's going to happen, he'll definitely be on a spring training roster in 2021. He's too talented, too young. He's not even 30 yet, a former All-Star. He'll get an invitation. Matt Harvey gets invitations every year, and he's been struggling, the pitcher. I think that a team may take a chance on him this year because we're going to see some more arm injuries. I'm telling you, it's going to be something that's going to be really bad. So there's going to be a team out there that just needs a live body to throw some innings. So he may get picked up, but obviously it's off waivers. He's not making too much money. I think it's $6 million. It's prorated. It's not the most money in the world. So we'll see what happens there with him. But the Braves, and striking out 19 times, that should not happen to a professional organization in Major League Baseball. That's really, really bad. So they got to work things out. But I think all teams have to work things out. I think outside of the Yankees, all these teams have flaws. Yankees have their flaws too. I think that their starting pitching outside of Garrett Cole is going to be a question. I know Paxton is okay. And Tanaka, he's always seems like he's dealing with some type of arm injury. But the bullpen is stout, especially when you have Zach Britton and Chapman on the back end of your bullpen. They're stout. They're going to mash so many runs between obviously Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge, Sanchez. They're going to put up a lot of runs this year. So they're going to mash their way to a bunch of wins. But every other team is going to be ups and downs. And this was the biggest stat I heard. I think it may have not happened ever in history of baseball, but no teams have gone 3-0. Not one team won their first 3 games of the season. That's going to be an indication of everything that's going on. All right, let's transition into the backdoor cut as far as the WNBA goes and the NBA. WNBA season, similar to Major League Soccer, they got a lot of attention and a lot of interest from casual fans because they were playing live basketball. I saw the games. I saw their tributes to Breonna Taylor. And I saw the Black Lives Matters on the court. I know we've gone through this before. I don't like social justice and political issues weaving into my sports as far as watching the broadcast. The players themselves, they can express themselves in whatever way they want. They can campaign and protest or whatever beliefs they have. That's cool. But when I watch a ball game, I want to watch the ball game. And WNBA, I think, is it okay? Them not coming out for the national anthem, that's their choice. The anthem, it's become such a polarizing, unnecessary issue. But I thought once the games were played, that was good. And I don't mind, and Breonna Taylor, the name on the back of the jerseys, once again, not a fan of that. But I say this and people think, oh, he's an advocate for whatever. No, what happened to Breonna Taylor is a tragedy. She was murdered in another form. We could break that down further. But as far as my sports go, seeing that is it is what it is. That's the route they've decided to go. So I think the contests were pretty okay. Atlanta had a big win over Dallas to open their season locally. But just seeing the players and seeing the contest at IMG Academy, I think those contests went very well. And we'll talk about the WNBA throughout the season. NBA, they ramp up. They start their season or restart their season this week. And I've seen some of the guys, more of them are reported to camp now and are in activity. So now we can start making some predictions as that go. The Lou Williams incident, look, with the Clippers, we know the Los Angeles Clippers guard. He was in Atlanta to attend his grandfather's funeral. Condolences to him and his family, of course. But on the way back, or while he was in Atlanta, he stopped off at the Gentlemen's Club, Magic City, to get the dinner or lunch. And he's very popular there. He and this is not hyperbole or a joke. He literally has a wings, a menu item named after him in that Gentlemen's Club. So he's very popular there. And he was hanging out with other people. I think Ryan Harlow is a rapper or somebody, his friend, posted pictures of him in the club. He had a mask on and all that stuff, and he quickly took it down. But the point is, the conditions of his quarantine with the NBA bubble is he cannot go to places. And it's not just that he went to Magic City. He could have gone to a family restaurant, even a fast food place. They're just conditions that you cannot be in a public forum with a certain amount of people like that. So now he is in the quarantine for 10 days in Orlando. Look, it's a funny story because, yes, he went to Magic City and all these other people from outside. Yes, if you're an Atlanta native, you know the club, and everyone's like, you have to go there. And it's literally next to the Greyhound station. People are glamorizing this thing like it's the Taj Mahal or the Palace or something like that. It's a really small, dingy strip club in a bad part of town. That's what it is. That's the reality of Magic City. So all of you non-Atlanta people that keep hearing this hyped up as like this grand palace or this amazing place that you must go to in Atlanta, no, it's not. And a lot of people like going there. I'm not knocking the hustle or the business and all that stuff. I know plenty of people that have been there and all that stuff, but if you saw it, it literally is like a building. It looks like a dump in the middle of a bad part of Atlanta. That's what it is. And he's very popular there. I understand all of that, but here's what he could have done. If he wanted his wings or to get a meal and all that stuff, because he keeps talking about how great of a restaurant it is. I've never eaten there, so I'm not going to say that it's not a good place to go to get a nice bite or a meal. I think the ambiance and the atmosphere make the meal very good, and we know what we're talking about there. If he wanted to he could have ordered them. He could have stayed in his car or where he was staying, had the wings or whatever meal delivered to him, and just been smart about it. He wanted to go there to party with the adult dancers and everything like that. And under normal circumstances, he's an adult. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But if you're going to be part of the system that you're with the NBA and their quarantine rules, you have to follow them. And does this end the Clippers' chances of an NBA championship? Not at all, because if he's not positive and all this other stuff, he'll sit out the 10 days. He'll miss 2 of the regular season games. He should be back for the playoffs, which is when he'll really be needed by the Clippers. He'll be in shape. He'll be in condition, all that stuff. So I think it's a funny story because it involves a gentleman's club, and we all like those type of stories because it's gossip. It brings the mind to a visceral or different level. And there's not much to talk about, honestly. I'll talk about Jamal Adams to end the show and with the NFL. But it's slow times, and it's not been a positive time for a lot of people. So to hear a guy going to the adult club to get wings and him maybe costing him some money and something with his job, it's a funny deal. But beyond that, it's just a guy who was not the smartest decision. And he shouldn't be canceled or banned and all that stuff. He'll be all right. And plus, if you know Lou Williams, and I don't know him, I've met him, I've talked with them. I'm not friends with them, but I have people that my friends are closer to him. This is not surprising at all, and this is once again not hyperbole. Very open lifestyle. He has, I don't know what his social current situation is. I'm not that deep into his stuff, but multiple girlfriends living in the house with them. He throws a lot of parties. He's very social in that regard, and that's not speaking out of term. This is open. He's discussed it. This is so I'm not putting bad in his mouth. This is what it is. So we know that the way he likes to live, and he just caught up with them. Bad moment. He'll be all right. Knicks hiring Tom Thibodeau. I've said this before. They could do if they do a clone of Phil Jackson, Red Auerbach, Pat Riley, Red Holtzman, Greg Popovich, whatever the 10 best coaches in history in the NBA, and you put them on the Knicks, they're still not going to win. They've had so many. They've had Larry Brown. They've had Don Nelson. Hall of Fame head coaches have passed through that franchise, and they have not been able to win consistently over the past 20 years. Part of that is ownership. The Dolan era has been a sports disaster, but it's also the players. I look at the roster. Outside of Robinson, the center, Julius Randle's a solid player, and then R.J. Barrett. Who do you want on that team? Who on that team you say is untouchable, or hey, I can build around this guy? Not one of the outside of those three, who are serviceable. Two of them are very young, in Robinson and R.J. Barrett. We gotta give them another year to see if those guys can be top frontline players. Randle is a good scorer on a bad team. Where did the Knicks go? That's the reality. In the NBA, you can, and I mentioned all those coaches that would be in my clone. Each one of them had at least 2 or 3 Hall of Famers on their squad at the peak of their years. You look at Popovich. He has 3 when the Spurs were rolling, 3 Hall of Famers in Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker. With Riley, with the Lakers, Kareem and Magic, maybe 2 of the top 5 players of all time. Some would say maybe 2 of the top players in history of the league when he was rolling. Now, he did some good things with the Knicks and the Heat. And with the Heat, he had Shaq and D. Wade, Hall of Famers. Holtzman had DeBusschere, Willis, Reed, Bill Bradley, guys who were all-time talent. And then Auerbach, I mean, come on, it's like the who's who of history of the league. Bill Russell, Havlicek, you go Bob Cousy, so many others that are Hall of Famers, all-time legends. So the point is that you can hire whoever you want. Thibodeau, he's a solid coach. Okay, a good tenure with Chicago, made the playoffs. I think 5 out of 5 years there that he was coach there. Minnesota did not go as well. Now they did make the playoffs one season to end a long postseason drought for the Timberwolves. But then you look at the fallout with Jimmy Butler, the lack of development of Wiggins and Karl-Anthony Towns. That is where he is going to struggle. Can he develop the young talent? 5-year contract. The Knicks print money. They can fire him after a year. I think it'll last more than a season. But that's in 5 years, he's going to have a long time there. The Knicks make so much money. They buy out contracts every other year with their head coaches. It doesn't matter. Will he have success there? What success? Is it being and people saying, will it be a championship team? Like, I know they brought in Leon Rose and they got Worldwide West in the front office now and everything like that. Success is being a postseason. I don't want to pull a Jim Morris about playoffs, but can't win a game. Hold off on championship aspirations with New York. If they could be in the playoffs, that's a good start. And they got to attract talent. And we've seen for free agency, that's not been a good route to go. They just have not been able to attract free agents to go there. You figure they'd go a different route, try to get a younger coach that could develop talent and build from there. Whether it's Mark Jackson, Tyronn Lue, Jason Kidd, maybe an assistant we were unaware with, Kenny Atkinson, who I thought was a very good coach with the Nets. They just had a falling out. You've seen him develop young talent over the years. I thought that would have been a better route for them to go than to get a Thibodeau, who's very good with a veteran team and guys who have been around the league a few years and kind of have their own way of doing things. He can work with that instead of developing from the bottom up. But with the Knicks, we'll see what happens there. And then finally, Gridiron Blitz will end on this Jamal Adams trade to the Jets, from the Jets to the Seahawks. Look, Jamal Adams, he talks a lot. We know he wants to get paid. He's been very chirpy this offseason about the direction the Jets are going. I think the Jets, though, ended up with a pretty solid deal, all things considered. 2 first-rounders and I think a third. And they traded to Seattle. Or the Jets got two first-rounders, I think a third, and then a safety that could replace Adams in the trade. I think it's a pretty good haul for the Jets. Now Adams, he's an all-star or Pro Bowler, all-pro. That's what I'm trying to say. All-pro caliber safety. He's going to be very motivated this year. He's in year 4 of his 5-year contract. So this is his make or break year. He knows that if he balls out this year and does well, he'll get that long-term deal with some pretty solid money from the Seahawks. Seattle's a place that they have a lot of energy. Carroll's a pro player. Outside maybe Andy Reid, the most pro player coach in the league. He'll kind of be a revival of the Legion of Boom. He'll love playing up there in Seattle. They'll like his energy. So he'll be a good boy. But man, those 2 first-rounders, and I know you're saying Seattle could be really good this year, so that's going to be in the 20s. We've seen plenty of solid players get drafted in the 20s and become all-pros, MVP caliber players. So that spot is very important in the draft. So to give 2 of those away for a safety, we'll see about that. The reality with Seattle is I still look at their offensive and defensive lines. The offensive line has been below average for years and it has not improved that much this offseason. And defensive line, Clowney's still out there. I don't know if they bring him back, but even with Clowney, their defensive line has been spotty at best. So until you improve I say with the Falcons all the time, they talk about Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, they look at Calvin Ridley, and look at those guys. And those guys are elite talents, but the offensive line has been below average. And defensively, you look at certain players on that team, you say, wow, you got Keanu Neal and stuff like that. And Grady Jarrett's, he's a Pro Bowl defensive tackle, maybe a top 4 or 5 player in this position. We look at the defensive line, and it's not strong. And that's why the Falcons are so inconsistent. Seattle's kind of able to overcome that a little bit more. But still, when your line play is not good, you're going to struggle. And I don't know if that trade really helps the cause in that regard. And that concludes today's show. Thanks for listening. As always, follow us on the sportsinquirer.net and our social media platforms. And until next time, good fight, good night, be safe.